So, good afternoon, everybody. That's pretty good. We'll leave it with that one. So, everybody asks who picks the videos around here, and I pick the videos, and usually they have some sort of meaning or something that we're going to do with those. And so that video is actually what we're going to be doing after this series called The Counselor. That video is going to be we're going to talk about leaving a legacy, and I haven't quite finished the series yet, so I don't have a title yet or anything. But we're we're going to talk about leaving. What sort of legacy do we leave behind with our family, with our jobs? What are we doing? When we leave a legacy, what are we doing? So that's going to be coming up. Last week, we started this series called The Counselor, and we talked about really in a storm. Jesus asked us a question. He goes, why are you afraid? Why are you so afraid? He goes, I'm here. Why are you afraid? And if you missed it, then I highly encourage you to go to our website and check it out. This next week, we're going to talk about what are our ongoing problems. So whether we're talking about being sick, our financial problems, whatever it is that we have going on, we're going to talk about that, and that's the question that Jesus asked us at that time is, do you want to be well? And a lot of us, I think, we want to be well. We just, we kind of forget some things sometimes. And then the week of Easter, which is in 2 weeks, we're talking about the simple question is doubt. And he asks us, why do you doubt? Why do you doubt? What's wrong? Why are you doubting? And so we're going to talk about that. That's what we're going to do. But today, we're talking about a story. It's in Matthew 9, and we're talking about, do you believe I can do this? This counselor has all these questions that Jesus asked. Do you believe I can do this? Do you believe that it's possible for me? A lot of times we're looking for a miracle. We're looking for something to happen in our lives. We're looking for something to change dramatically. We want to be touched by God. We heard about it in the announcements where we're talking about, different things to be touched. We're like, we want the goosebumps, or we want, the flutters, or we want all these different things. How do you know you felt God's presence? And we look for these miracles sometimes. But when it really gets down to these problems that are too big for us to handle, we really lose faith and we don't rely on Jesus or on God a lot of times. We go, and he goes, do you think that I can't handle this? Why don't you think I can take care of this? Do you believe I can do it? And a lot of times we go, we don't believe you can do it. If you have a Bible with you, or if you don't, we'll get you a Bible. But open up to Matthew 9, and I'm going to tell you a little story about before we get into the verses that we're going to use out of Matthew 9. But prior to the verse I'm going to use, is that Jesus was teaching in the synagogue. He was out there and he was teaching, and a synagogue leader comes in, and he falls at Jesus. He just comes in and he goes, "Oh, teacher, I need your help right now. You have to come help me." And Jesus asked him, well, what? What do you need? My daughter has died. I need your help. Only you can do it. And Jesus gets up and he goes, yeah, let's go over and take a look. And he walks into the house and he sees the girl and he goes, and he laughs. It's kind of one of those things. Can you imagine? He walks in, really? I'm here for this? He goes, she's not dead. She's only asleep. Because that's how he kind of looked at it. And he raises her up from the dead. And he goes, don't tell anybody about this. Don't let anybody know. And what happens is the news spreads like wildfire. I mean, it goes out and everybody knows about it. Everybody hears about it. And what happens is these two blind guys show up and they're going, did you hear what he did? He just raised somebody from the dead. Did you hear about this? Did you hear what was going on? And it leads us into this verse, and it goes, as Jesus went on from there, and this is Matthew 9:27, as Jesus went on from there, two blind men followed him, calling out. So Jesus is walking along, he's just coming, and they're calling out, they're going, hey, you, they don't even see him, right? So they could be like, he could be walking that way, and they're looking over, hey, you! No, but they're calling out after him, they're going, Jesus, hey! And he just continues walking along, and you hear them go, have mercy on us, son of David. And when Jesus had gone indoors, the blind man came to him and asked him, and he asked him, do you believe that I am able to do this? Yes, Lord, they believed. Then he touched their eyes and said, according to your faith, let it be done unto you, and their sight was restored. Now, there's two things that are important here. He said, do you believe? Which is the question that he asked. Do you believe I can do this? And then the next line is probably the most important, is where he goes, according to your faith. According to your faith. Do you believe that he'll take care of these issues that we have going on in our lives? Because according to your faith, that's how he's going to do it. These guys back then, they didn't have they didn't have they were blind guys, so they didn't have this social standing. They weren't like people are looking at, hey, we got to go hang out with those guys. They didn't do that. They didn't have that opportunity. They didn't have a lot of income. It wasn't like he did it for money. He didn't reference good works. He didn't come out and say, hey, because of your good works, I'm going to take care of this. He didn't do that at all. He said, according to your faith. He referenced their faith, and he goes, I will heal according to your faith. What do you believe? What is your faith? I'll take care of it. It can be encouraging and confusing at the same time. It's encouraging because you go, God can heal. But it's confusing because you go, God, I pray all the time. All the time I pray. Literally, I pray after every service. I grab the connection cards, I go into the office, and I'm praying after each service. And I pray, but I see a lot of the same connection cards over and over again. I'm looking for a job. I need financial help. I need this. I need that. And I go, God, you told us that if I pray for it, you'll ask it. So I pray. But then I prayed and you didn't answer. I must not have enough faith. Is that really and that's the confusing part. Do I have enough faith? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Am I doing what God has asked me to do? This is where the confusing part comes in. It's encouraging that he says he'll answer everything, and you can see that he's done it, but it's one of those things you go, man, God, what's going on? What is the biggest hindrance of our faith? What is it? In your lives, you can look at it, and you have a blank that goes there. I ask the question, you go, well, what is that? What is my hindrance? Could it be worry? Could it be doubt? Is it fear? What is the biggest hindrance of your faith? What is it? Because a lot of times we have one. It's the enemy of our faith. Whatever that blank is, it is the enemy of our faith. You'll have a blank there, and it comes up, and it becomes almost to where we become accepting of whatever it is that blocks us. It goes, well, if you look at it back then, they go, we've always been blind. We've had headaches. We've struggled financially. We've had all these things happen, and that's just the way it is. That's how it's going to be forever. That's how we get a lot of times. We go, oh, we're just always going to be this way. It's always going to be this way forever and ever and ever. We don't have any faith that God will change it. Where is your faith? Do you have faith that God will change your circumstances and what you're going through? Or do you go, nope, that's the way it is. It's always going to be that way. That's what doubt, fear, and all these different things, the worry, the doubt, the fear, that goes, that's just how it's always going to be. That's just how we roll all the time. That's just how it's going to be. I'm always going to be blind. Maybe for you, you're going, well, I'm always going to have these different things going on in my life. I'm always going to have a bad marriage. I'm always going to have this. I'm always going to have that. You can change it. You can change what's going on. You know, I've got in here and it talks about we have these bad relationships. You know, and so most of us have these bad relationships with our faith. We have bad relationships. You know, when you look at your faith and you start going, how solid would you consider that relationship? Your relationship with God, how would you go, man, that is just, people look at me and they know that I'm a follower. They just know. Because how strong my faith is. You know, I know a lady who right now is dying of cancer. I mean, she's literally, they've given her they're just on comfort care. And, you know, she was at our first church service. When we launched as a church 2 years ago, she was at our first service, and she supported us ever since. And she go, you know, and one of those things is that she was like, you know, you stole my heart when I came in here. It was so uplifting to my faith. But every day I talk to her, she goes, I've asked for God I ask him over and over for these different things, and if he doesn't deliver, that's okay, I still believe. Her faith has just been unwavering, just going through the struggle that she's been going through. I mean, literally, she's had cancer, it's come and gone, and now it looks like it's just on the last bit of it. And you just look at it and she goes, I believe that God is going to take care of me, and it doesn't matter if he takes care of me here or he takes care of me later. It's the type of faith that we look at and go, I wish I could be that faithful. I wish that I could just look and go, you know what, God, it doesn't matter. I'm going to take care of it. I'm just going to follow you. Doesn't matter if you take care of this now. What type of faith honors God? In your notes, if you have notes written, you know, if you're following along with this, then the first answer in there is faith that believes when it doesn't see. Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the confidence that what we hope for will actually happen. It gives us assurance about things we cannot see. It gives us assurance about things. God, I don't see you, but I know you exist. It's faith. I know it's there. It's things that we can't see. God asked Noah to do something. You know, so most of us would go, yeah, God, you asked Noah to build an ark. And so if you've seen the movies, you know that it's not very biblical. And if you haven't seen it, I'm not telling you to go see it. It's pure entertainment value. But I will tell you is that Noah received instructions to build an ark. Okay? They were in the desert. There was no water anywhere. There was nothing like it. They were in the desert. And he goes, can you imagine how this goes? Can you imagine that you get word to go build an ark, and your buddies look at you and they go, what are you doing? Why are you building this? There's no water on it. We don't even know what rain is. They had no idea what rain was. They go, what are you talking about? So, not only does he start to build the ark, but they were in the desert. There was no trees. So he had to plant trees, and he had to grow the trees, and he had to do all this work. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like he got started on this thing, and then 3 weeks later the ark was done. It took 120 years. 120 years for him to build the ark. Can you imagine at year 80 what his wife was looking at him doing? Yeah, God told you to build that, huh? All of our money is going into that. Some guys in here know what I'm talking about. You might have a car out there. God told me to build this car. Told me to restore this thing. But you get to this point where you're 80 years into this. 80 years into your wife's got to be going, yeah, well, what do you think your friends are saying? Your wife might support you and goes, yeah, I believe that God told you that. And then your friends are stopping by. You're crazy, dude. You are. Because that's how it is sometimes. But you have to have the faith that believes even when it doesn't see it immediately. 120 years later, it is Noah that is standing there on the boat where everybody else is being washed away. 120 years later, after all the ridicule, after all the things that are going on, it's him on the boat while everything else is gone. Life was for having faith and following what God told him to do. He was given life. What about you? When you have faith and you're following along what God told you to do, what do you get? You get life. You get eternal life out of it. Just because you don't get to see it right now doesn't mean that it's not going to happen in 120 years. What about Sarah and Abraham? He was promised a child. They go, you're going to have a child. And he was given Isaac. But it took 90 years. It's not an overnight thing. It doesn't happen immediately. It happens in time, and it happens in God's time. It doesn't mean you go, God, I need to win the lottery, and then 5 minutes later you're waiting at the liquor store for your numbers to come up. Doesn't work that way. He doesn't answer that. First off, don't ever pray to win the lottery. Everybody's praying to win the lottery. He doesn't answer that. That's pure luck. If it happens, it was lucky. I just tell you is that there are things that it takes time to happen. God doesn't just immediately answer, and so you can't lose faith and you can't have wavering faith because it didn't get an immediate answer right away. God promised to deliver Israel, and the people of Israel marched around the walls for 7 days before they fell. What are you looking at? What are you doing? What are you going, I'm giving up right now? When Jesus had gone indoors, he went inside. He had already taken, he was like, yeah, I'm going inside right now. When Jesus had gone indoors, the blind man came to him and asked. It didn't happen right when they asked. He had to travel across town, and he actually walked into his house. And he said, now, okay, I got time to deal with it. When he walked indoors, they came, and he said, do you believe that I am able to do this? Yes, Lord, they replied. Do you believe that I'm able to heal your marriage? Yes, Lord. Do you believe that I'm able to help your children? Yes, Lord. Do you believe that in a miracle right now inside of your body? Yes, Lord. Do you believe that I can forgive you? Yes. All these different things. Do you believe? Do you believe? Well, what is it? Do you believe or not? Where's your faith at? What is going on? Do you believe that he can heal you from past hurt? Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you believe that he can help you conceive a child? Well, he did it for Sarah and Abram. Why couldn't he do it for you? Why couldn't it happen? When we get to this point, though, in our lives, our faith works this way. It works a little backwards sometimes. We get to the point where we go, well, all we can do now is pray. We've tried everything else. All we can do is pray. No, it's time to flip that around. You should have started with prayer and then started moving along with your actions. Because you got to get God involved at the beginning. Whatever it is that's going on, you got to go, God, this is what we're going to do. Guide me, lead me. And that's when he gets involved in it. But instead, we go, well, I've tried everything else, God. Now all it is, I'll put it in your ballpark. And a lot of times, the size of your request reveals the size of your faith. The size of your request, a lot of times, reveals. So We always, I just went to the Philippines last week, and as I got on the plane, you get on these, and if you ever have children or anybody that travels with you, you try and be a man and don't look like you're afraid when you're taking off or landing. That's what happens. You get on and you go, nope, everything's going to be fine. But you're sitting there praying, God, keep us safe through these travels. This thing can fall apart right now. I mean, that's what you do. What is the size of your request? At home, you get there, you get your meal, you sit there and you're sitting at the dinner table. Well, for most of you, you're sitting around the coffee table, but you're sitting there and you're going, let's pray for our food. Let's pray. And you go, God, bless this food. You should have prayed before it even got to your house. You should have been going, God, bless this provisioning to allow me to go to the grocery store. It's already at your home. What are you praying for? Thank you for continuing to allow us to eat. But I said the statement. I go, a lot of times we don't sit around the dinner table. I've walked into houses. I know that you don't sit around the dinner table because I can see little spots on the carpet. Well, that's where you had some chili, and that's where. But what happens is that we've forgotten to talk about having. Thank you for this family, and as we enjoy time at the dinner table, thank you for what you've done and helping us come together. Thank you for we take that for granted. All we can do is pray now. That's how we get in our lives. What sort of faith do you have, and how big is your prayers? Because God says, I'll answer your prayers. I'll answer them. You can ask me to move a mountain. How big is your faith? How big is your faith? The second one, if you're taking notes, faith that persists when nothing changes. Jesus didn't answer immediately. He didn't. He walked indoors. He went inside. He was like, he goes inside, and he goes, I'll get to that in a second. Faith that persists when nothing changes. When God doesn't answer your prayer immediately, what are you doing? Where are you going? How are you changing things? And what you're like going, well, God, I can't believe in you anymore. Colossians 4:2, it says, be persistent in prayer and keep alert as you pray, giving thanks to God. Be persistent in prayer. How persistent are you in prayer? How persistent? Do you ask for something one time and go, oh, I give it up now? Or do you ask all the time, over and over and over again? If it's that important, you will ask every day. Most of us would go, God, I really want to get out of financial trouble. Or I want to get out of this issue. I want to have health. But we only ask for it the one time. We go, we do financial peace here on Wednesday nights. And we go, God, I want to get out of financial trouble. We only ask on Wednesdays. What about the other 6 days of the week? Are you always asking? Are you being persistent? Are you always going, God, I want this. I want this. God, help me. Help me get through this. Or is it just a once a week thing? Do you just come and is your faith persistent on Sundays from 11:30 to 1 o'clock? Or is it persistent all the time? In Luke 18, the verse opens up and there's a widow and she's going to the city leader and she's going, give me justice. Give me justice from this hurt. Give me justice. And he goes, no, I'm not in the mood for that right now. But again, she comes in, give me justice, give me justice, give me justice. And his answer is, because of your persistence, because you continue to nag me. Guys, you know how it is. They continue to go, mow the lawn, mow the lawn, mow the lawn. You go, man, I'll go mow it. It's persistence. It works. Ask your wife. That's how it is, though. You get to this point and people go, I almost gave up. Be persistent. You want a job? Be persistent. You want to get out of financial debt? Be persistent. You want to start following these things that God has laid out for you? Be persistent in your walk with Him. Open the Word. Start doing life with Him. Don't just give up after the first no and go, must not be the answer. No. Be persistent. Continue over and over and over again. The last one on your notes, and it says, what type of faith? And the last one is faith that works when it doesn't make sense. The difference between hope and faith, hope is desire, faith is demonstration. Now, I talked about Abraham and Isaac a little bit before, but think about this. He was promised a child. I'm going to deliver you a son. And then he asked, now I want you to sacrifice that son. I want you to take him up on the hill and I want you to sacrifice. Now, here's what he does. He gets up and goes to do it. He's like, all right, boy, let's go. We got to go out. And he gets up early in the morning and takes his son to the top of the hill. In James 2:22, you see that Abraham's faith and his actions were working together. So here's your question. Is your faith and your actions working together? Or are you faithful on Sunday mornings and you walk out of here and you're the biggest sinner as soon as you cross the parking lot? You know, we pull out and we go right back into sinning and living that lifestyle that we go, God, why aren't you being faithful? Why aren't you just following my simple instructions and loving your neighbor and doing the things that I've asked? It's a simple answer. You go, God, why aren't you answering my prayer? Why aren't you listening to me? Think about it as a parent. If you're a parent and your child comes up to you and goes, Daddy, I want ice cream, but he just stole all your stuff out of your living room. You go, yes, you can have all of it. What do? You don't go reward them. I made it sound like the child was much older than what it was. But I mean, what happens? What do we do? Your kid breaks a window at the house. You go, let me reward him immediately. Let's go out and let's go get whatever you want, son. Let's go get a toy. No, we don't reward them. And how do we expect our Father in heaven to reward us at the same time when we go, yeah, God, I hate that person. I hate that one. I would never, ever love that one. And I'm going to just continue to do all the things that I love, these earthly desires on this hand. And he's going to go, of course, I want to give you every prayer you ask for. Everything you ask for, I will deliver. No, we have to be following. What are your works? Do they line up? And his faith was made complete by what he did. His faith was made complete by what he did. What are you doing? What are you doing? Does it look like you're faithful? Does it look like you're even remotely following Christ? Does it look like it? Do you call yourself a Christian? Christian, the root word, Christ follower. Do you look like a Christian, or do you look like a heathen or a sinner? Which one? Because those are the answers, and you start going, why isn't this being done, or why isn't that being done? Well, the answer's right in front of you. Sometimes we get so focused on the problems that we have in front of us. We get so focused on it. We go, man, I'm in such financial trouble. And we just pursue that. We go, how am I going to get after this? How am I going to take care of this? How am I going to go here? And we just go after that. The problem is we can't see the answer that's sitting right in front of our face sometimes. It's right here, and we miss it. It's like we go, why am I in such financial problem? Well, are you following what God said? Stop going in debt. He said, don't be servant to money. He told us all these different things, but what do? We go, nope, I'm going to follow on my own plan. How many credit cards will they give me? Will they give me another one? Can I have another auto loan? Can I get this? Can I get that? And we go, why am I in debt and why am I struggling financially? Because you become servant to money rather than to God. And a lot of times we go, man, God, why can't I see you, or why can't I feel you? And the blind guys were the same way back then. They couldn't see him. They couldn't feel him. They just had this sense. They go, I need to start going where they couldn't hear. They could hear him. They could hear when, that voice that we have sometimes that we can hear. We go, man, I'm supposed to be doing the right thing, but so often we just ignore it. Go, nope, time to do what Mike wants to do. And they would yell. They would go, hey, they could speak about it. Hey, they would use all the senses except for their eyes. Just like we need to use all of our senses except for our eyes when it comes to pursuing God right now. We need to start following, because we don't see him physically like that. But back then they couldn't see him either, and yet he was there to heal them, and he was there to take care of them, and he gave. They followed him. They could hear his footsteps. They could hear what was going on. They go, man, I can hear what's that. And they followed. And they got to the house, and they went indoors, and they go, can you take care of this? Can you heal? I believe that you can do it. And he does. He goes, do you think I can really do it? Do you believe that? Yes. Let it be according to your faith. Guys, we're so focused on what we can see that we're missing out on all the other things that God is trying to tell us. Listen to the footsteps. Listen to the sound. Listen to all these things that are going on. You're being so chained down by these different things. You're being chained down by your debt, your relationships. You're being chained down and you're going, why is it that these things continue to happen this way? It's because you're not following with your faith. You're not following, you're just going, I want to be right here. I like it. I like living this way. Sometimes we get to this point where we don't know what we can do. We go, I don't know what I can do. And it really becomes to the point we focus more on what we can't do. I can't really make a change there. I can't do anything about this. I can't do this. What am I going to do? I can't pay the bills today. Well, if you change this and you go, I can't pay the bills today, well, keep seeking Jesus and sell everything but the kids. Sell it all. Just get rid of all of it. I can't change my spouse, because that's what all of us want to do. We want to change our spouse for some reason. Love them the way that they are and believe in a miracle. I can't heal cancer, but I can change my diet, I can eat better, I can live healthier, I can find the best doctor, and I can get my small group praying. These are things that I can do right now, right here. There's things that probably burden you. And if they don't burden you, I'm going to make them burden you right now. Because if you've ever seen child trafficking or human trafficking, that should be a burden to you. It should be something that you see and go, we can't continue to allow that happen. They take people and they kidnap them out of their neighborhoods in the Philippines and in China and in these different countries, especially out of Russia and out of Asian countries, and they kidnap them and they put them in containers. And then they ship them across the world. And a lot of times, they don't give them enough food, there's no bathroom, there's nothing in there. It's a container full of 50 to 100 people. And when they get here, can you imagine what it smells like? 100 people at sea for 30 days. Can you imagine how many people of them are still alive? Because a lot of people, they die on their way over. But that's the cost of doing business for them, is what they say. That is a burden. That is something that you should look at and go, we need to put an end to that. We need to start x-raying every container. Whatever you come up with in your mind, we need to figure out how do we stop that from happening. That's a burden. We have the burden for the unborn. They just don't have a choice. They don't have anything. Here, I saw a great statement online. Why is it that if somebody commits a homicide and they're pregnant, it's a dumb homicide, but if they have an abortion, it's not? What is that? Why is that? Why is that going on? It's a burden for the unborn. It's a burden for those that are hurting. Why do we continue to allow those things to happen? Why is it that we allow underprivileged children to walk around? We go and they starve. They don't have food. They get maybe once a day. Do you know that when they give up the free lunch program at schools, that those kids generally don't eat at all those days? They have to have the free lunch program. That's the reason why they do it all summer long, because if they don't do it during the summer, those children will starve. Did you know that? That is a burden. And how do we change it? And how do we start doing something different about it? And how do we start after where we go, well, then we'll feed them here. What are we going to do? These are the things that you have to look at, but you have to remember, we can't do it all. So we all have these burdens now, because I just gave them to you. Now you're going to go home and start researching child trafficking and children starving. But here's the problem. We can't do everything. We can't do it all. My wife and I love to do that. My wife and I, we look and we go, I was just in the Philippines, and I go, I can fix that. It can take me like 10 minutes. I can take care of this, and I can take care of that. The problem is we can't do everything. But we can do something. We can do something. It doesn't mean that we have to go off and try and do everything. We can believe big, but start small. We can believe and go, hey, we can take care of this, but sometimes it just means taking the first step and doing something. A lot of times we're afraid to even we just don't even know where to start. We're like, do I go this way or do I go that way? Which way do I go? But you just need to take a step in helping and start pursuing your faith or whatever it is that God has placed on your heart to pursue. Start small. Do something different. We have these questions. We go, do I have enough faith? And we even place our faith in faith instead of our faith in Jesus. We go, God, I have faith, but what does that really mean? And what does that represent? Do you have faithfulness in God, or do you have faithfulness in your own works? Do you have faithfulness in what you can do, or do you have faithfulness? Remember I told you about the lady at the beginning. I believe God can. I believe God will, but if he doesn't, I will still believe. I believe God can, I believe he will, but if he doesn't, I will still believe. Do you believe that? Is that what you go, is that how you're walking along, or do you go, no, I refuse to have blind faith. I refuse to follow along, listening for the footsteps, knowing that Jesus can heal if I can get to him. If I can just get his attention. You can be jumping up and down. God, I'm here. Please be persistent. He can answer those prayers. He can take you from all those situations that you're in. But you have to have faith that he'll do it. And you have to be persistent. And then you have to stop expecting it to happen right then. Because that's just not how he works. He just doesn't deliver that way. But we need to start changing it. We need to start realizing that he gave so much for each one of us already. Look at your past. I mean, unless you're young, look at your past. Look at where he took you from already. Look at what's already happened. You can look back at your life and go, oh my gosh, they should be dead already. I can say that. I don't know about all of you, but I can say that. I say, man, look what he delivered me from. What has he already taken you from? What has he already brought you? You go that he can't take care of these other things? You go, oh, he can't answer this prayer. Well, he took you from the worst place that you've ever been, probably. And look at now. You have to have blind faith. You know, there's a line I have in my notes, and it says, I would rather be blind with faith that God can heal than to see and have no faith. I would rather be blind with faith that God can heal than see and have no faith. And it's just kind of impactful to me when you start hearing this and you start looking at it and go, we have everything here but our faith. And we just continue to try and do what we want to do. Start becoming faithful and start pursuing God the way that he asked you to pursue him. And find how he starts answering more prayers and how your life starts to change and how you start to have this direction where you go, man, just things are working out perfect for me for some reason right now. Is it going to be perfect? Are you going to get this prosperity thing? Because you guys, if you know me, I don't preach about prosperity. I don't come in and go, everybody's going to have Lexuses and Cadillacs in here. I don't do that. Because Jesus promised that we would have trouble. He said that you're going to have troubles. He said that it's everything they've done to me, they're going to do to you and worse. So if we're going to have that, then that means that we're all not going to have Lexuses. But he does still want us to be happy. And he does still want us to have all of our needs met. And he does want us to have community, and he wants us to have love. But it starts with having faith in him. It starts with having faith in what he can do and faith that he will continue to provide for us. We need to step back and start going, God, I want you to just take over. And I believe that I'll just follow along, and you'll restore my sight. It's a small step and a small change with big implications. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much, and thank you for all that you're doing right now. The stirring that you've started, whether it's with the burdens or whether it's even the recognition of our faith and where it's lied at and where we've been and have we been faithful. And God, I know that you're doing something right now. I know that you're changing hearts and that you're looking at things and going, I can make a difference here. God, we are so thankful for everyone that you've brought in here today. There's so much going on. So many different things that we look at and go, God, we need help here and we need help there. And all you've said is that if you pray with me and you believe I can do it, I will do it. God, we believe and we're praying. And we want to start seeing changes. And we want to start seeing changes within ourselves as well as those around us. God, thank you so much. Thank you for all that you're doing. In your Son, Jesus' name, amen. Guys, before we take off today, is generally on the first Sunday of the month we do communion, and a lot of times people get confused about communion because sometimes it's made out to be something more than what it is. Communion is a time for us to look and go, I believe that Jesus died for my sins, and it's us to remember that. That's all communion is. It's time for us to remember what God has done for us. And so sometimes they want to put a few more things onto it. They go, oh, you got to go through this class, you got to go through that class. And you don't have to go through any class because Jesus didn't teach a class when he gave the first communion. He just said, this was my body, and it's going to be broken for you, for those who believe and those who have faith in me. And so as we're talking about this message of faith, this faith that we're going to have everlasting life, this faith that we're going to get to spend it with Jesus and his Father, and we're going to get to spend time in heaven, this is what this represents. And so we take this joyfully. So as this video plays, we ask that you get up and you get the elements in the back. If you believe, then everyone's welcome. And even the video says that all are welcome to take communion. And if you don't believe yet, well, that's okay. We have people in the back right now that will pray with you, that will help you, that will pray with you to get through it. But don't be, and even if you don't believe and you still want to take communion, the bread's okay, I guess. So here's that video.